Thank you guys very, very much for attending today. We're really excited about what we have in store with the Core and Associates product line, with our new enterprise additions. We've taken an opportunity this year to start these seminars, and they're more theme based as opposed to being product based, because so much of what we have developed and what we've acquired over the last couple of years, there's a lot of coexistence between the products, so that from a workflow standpoint, you can really skinny up the processes and get those things where they're very, very efficient. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. This particular theme of this presentation is to eliminate data entry. One of our goals this year is to try to get to the point where we can basically see a lot of efficiency through the applications that we have that will go in and eliminate the double touch or the double entry of information. So as we go down the list here, you'll see where we do that, and you'll see some combination of products and things like that. Before we started, let me talk a little bit about the evolution of our product. We started by offering an accounts payable workflow solution. This product has just been a fantastic application. We've, our customers that use it are very, very satisfied with the product. We introduced single entry electronic routing and entry point validation, and you'll hear me use those terms a lot today, because what we decided and found out was that this same workflow, or this same concept of workflow, can be applied to all other areas of the business. We've also pioneered over the last couple of years an OCR functionality and what we call acquire automation. And what this allows us to do is basically eliminate entry. If you're fortunate enough to have used some of the capture products, we've matured that product now to where it's about an 80 to 90% OCR capture, so that the information that we get off of the invoice templates can come into the system and be accurate at the accounts payable invoice entry. Also, our acquire automation products, which we're maturing out this year, are everything from acquiring the email that gets sent to you, or getting your vendors to submit their email to you via into your inbox, where acquire automation goes and automatically pulls that transaction and brings it into TimberScan. Right now, we just have email acquire, which allows it goes out, monitors the inbox, and brings it in and drops it into a folder. And from that point, you manually bring it in, acquire it, and bring it into AP entry. We're adding to this the integration with Capture, so that those emails can come, those emailed invoices can come into the system and automatically be captured through our OCR and dropped right into our invoice entry in TimberScan, fully entered as far as from the header information. So we're building out this product line and adding some features and functionality here in the first half of the year that is really going to enhance this process and allow you to eliminate functional steps and also manual entry. We also have introduced the Core Cloud system, which basically is we looked at all the other documents that are within a construction company. And these documents can be turned into electronic apps, and those apps can be workflowed through the company from a cell phone or a smartphone all the way in to automatically updating the information inside of Sage, or bringing it straight into TimberScan and storing it there. And we're going to talk a little more about that, but that's our Core Cloud system. And what we've determined is that we can apply the same concepts in accounts payable workflow processing to all the other forms and documents, and then use our entry point validation so that when that information hits Sage or hits TimberScan, it's valid. It's not data that's just rogue. So you'll see that today. We're also finishing up some strategic applications. These are customized mobile solutions like our material management, our bid management, our HR product for human resource management. They're all built around the Core Cloud systems, and they're offered to the Sage 100 and the 300 product line. But you're going to see a couple of those today that we're pretty proud of as well. Our mission this year, next year, and probably beyond, is to develop workflow solutions Based on our proven accounts payable single touch entry point validation design, that's going to make you, our clients, more efficient and productive. And everybody that's on this particular session, I think, are customers. So I'm going to be able to kind of pass over some of the things that that I would have to tell somebody who has not actually used TimberScan. When you come in and you look at the actual timeline of that, this is a little older slide. I should have updated it, but you can kind of see through the course of the years. We've been around. This is our 10th anniversary. We have over 30,000 users and probably about 1,600 customers. So, you know, we've been around, we've got some stability, and basically our product has proven to be a success in the Sage world. We're really excited too, now that we're introducing our products into the Sage 100 world. Those are some new things that we're doing as well. I'm not going to PowerPoint you to death here, but I want to talk a little bit about our process. You guys are familiar with the TimberScan AP routing system, and that's where we capture the information. And from that point forward, everything is electronic. The integration to Timberline or Sage is basically electronic. So it's a single touch concept. That's what we mean by that. Entry point validation just means you can look at you can filter on the cost codes, jobs, vendors. All of that information is inside of TimberScan, linked to Sage, so that basically the users can do F4 lookups and be able to validate the information at the point of entry. We took this concept and this process right here, and we just mimicked it in the core cloud systems. We mimicked it into the other forms, into the applications that we built, but also we've enhanced this process tremendously, and you'll see that here in the coming areas. And this is kind of a visualization of what we see. And if you'll appreciate the fact that we have our core products here, our Capture, our Compare, our TimberScan AIM, these are the products that we've had that are out and they're working well. And a lot of you guys might be familiar with mostly TimberScan, but some of y'all have Capture. Commander's probably relatively new, and we'll go over that today. When we introduced the core cloud system, we just extended the functionality of what we do here. And that way, inside of core cloud, basically we have form management, we have our payroll system that we offer, our credit card process, our material management and purchasing systems, our work order dispatch system, and these are applications that basically work inside of our mobile core web system, and then they feed into Sage and they feed into TimberScan. So this is what our look looks like, and as we go down through the year, we're going to be introducing our project management component and also our human resources component. So if you can appreciate what we're doing is we're building a wrapper around your Sage products to just give you more functionality from a single vendor. And that's what our whole goal has been, so that we can interrelate some of this information between the different applications, and you'll see that inside as we go through a little bit today. Just so that you can appreciate the core cloud systems integration, what we've done here is basically give you as the user the ability to build a form app. Now that form app could be safety, it could be a payroll timesheet, it could be a credit card receipt, virtually any kind of form, and we give you the power to be able to build that form. Now within the form, we have what we call entry point validation. Entry point validation allows us to integrate between the Sage 300 database and TimberScan, so that when the user is touching the screen filling out the form, he has validation. And because Core Cloud System also has workflow built into it, then basically what it can do is we can take that form in its raw, from the point of entry, route it mobilely or route it through the web so that it can be approved or edited or updated, so that when it gets over here to TimberScan or gets into Sage, it's all automatic. So like if you were doing a payroll timesheet out here, we could push it through here, get it approved, get it into a grid, massage it, touch a button, and it automatically updates payroll. So this single touch process is something we're trying to really elaborate in today's session. And the better way to kind of look at this is I have a video here that I want to run so that you can kind of see the process. Now, if you can appreciate our core cloud system is what we call a responsive user interface. So it doesn't matter what system you're on, whether it's an iPhone or an Android, or whether you're on a pad device or on the desktop, this particular product is going to be able to shrink itself or expand itself onto that form. Now, in this example, I'm going to do a daily report, and you'll see how this actually works. You'll see some of the featuring, and of course, this is in combination with all sorts of other forms. But notice how I'm picking the information. So as I'm picking this information and I'm going down the form, I have these different types of question types that allow us so that they don't have to data enter anything. They can even dictate. So the entry functionality we've tried to streamline so that users in the field would not be, scared of this. So as you can appreciate, you can design these forms however you want them to look. Now we also, when we get down past the employees and get to the subcontractor on this video, you're going to see the validation function. And this is where we keep a real-time validation going on so that when you hit that subcontractor, and whatever you know about it, his name, his number, it's going to go and search it out. In this case, it filters it by job because you're doing a job-specific form. And then down here, basically, you're going to fill out the information. And again, this is just a simple example of a daily report. And then once this actually is submitted, it goes on a route. And that route could go maybe to the project manager. Now, the project manager could add information to the existing form. He could maybe send it back to the person who originated it. But the idea behind this is that it was entered one time, and then from that point forward, it's basically, it can be done electronically, just like we do in Sage, in a TimberScan. Now, once that's actually done, because we want this particular document to store itself in AIM, it automatically comes and sets itself into AIM, and it automatically indexes itself so that you can now come back in and search it and be able to go in and look at like your project management documents. And if you haven't worked with AIM, this is now free to your system. And then here you can add conditions of search, which are the indexes. And then as you put in your conditions and you go to search that information out, it's going to draw that information up into the system and give you a copy of the image. Now with AIM, we have the same routing functionality that we do with accounts payable. So if this were a contract or a change order, we could literally route it around internally and the approvers could get that. But you can see right away, this is basically just content management. Now, once it gets past AIM and the fact that we store it in AIM, we also paperclip it to Sage. And when you set up the AIM system, you can choose where you want this to be paperclipped. So the next part of this slide is we're going to go into job cost and paperclip it to the job setup file. So if you can appreciate what's going on right here, this is where you would come in, you said, hey, I want to set this to the job setup file, you hit the paperclip, and because it's in AIM, it now shows you that information as far as the image goes, and then any routing notes or anything that came along with it from any of the systems outbound. So hopefully what you appreciate with this particular video is the fact that it's single entry functionality. If you're familiar with accounts payable, it's kind of the same process. So kind of pin that on the wall and just kind of take a look at that, because that's basically what you can do with every form in your company. And because we give AIM now free with our system, we also give the email acquire free with our system. And you just need to call support. You do have to pay for AIM training, but email acquire will set up just through your support and maintenance. And if you can get those things added to the system, you might find some functionality in here so that basically you can start utilizing those particular pieces of those particular products in our system. The reason we actually give away AIM is for really the core cloud, because of the fact that we can automatically drop these things into AIM and eliminate the scan and indexing. So if you already have a content management system, or if you're storing things out in the Windows file system and you're trying to paperclip it to Sage, you understand that's a 2 or 3 step function. Well, we can eliminate that down to a no-step function because it's all automatic. And here again is where I'm talking about how we can eliminate our data entry from there. Is there any questions up to this point? If you do, just unmute yourself and ask me the question. Okay, perfect. All right, so I'll move on. The next step is our core capture. If you're not familiar with our capture product, this is where we actually, you set up the templates for your vendors, and then we can turn around and capture the invoices that come in from your vendors, and then it goes in, and based on the template, it can take and automatically drop the information into the vendor entry screen or into the invoice entry screen that's inside of TimberScan. We can also go to the extent of adding custom coding. I did a utility company, I mean a real estate company that gets about 200 or 300 utility bills. Well, we went in and basically by by setting up the templates, they eliminated the data entry of the coding and the details. We also have introduced a new product that's called invoice vouchering, and this is in conjunction with our three-way match or our purchase order and our receiving functionality, where we can eliminate virtually all the entry on an AP invoice. Now, I'm going to run this real quick on Capture so that you can kind of see how this actually works. This is on our website, but it's a great video, so I'm going to go ahead and it takes just a second to run through it. So you can get the gist of how Capture actually does work. When you sit down and you start out, you take you scan in a copy of your vendor's invoice into the system. And by virtue of scanning in that invoice, you then use the functionality which you're fixing to see to kind of highlight the areas of that invoice to get the information. So as you look across the top, like invoice date, balance due, description, job, all of those have a different color annotation. So as you highlight those areas, then basically over on the left-hand panel, you're seeing the validation of that information as you've hit it. So you know that you're highlighting the correct information. Well, once you run this through Capture, instead of doing your standard acquire, you just come over here and you acquire your invoices through the Capture function. And when you do that, it automatically recognizes, based on the way you set your template, the invoice itself. So that whenever it goes through, it knows who the vendor is, it knows everything about it, and it scrapes out the information, and it drops it right here in AP entry. And then it highlights it and brings it down onto the entry level so that you can see right away if it made a mistake. So if you can appreciate this, it doesn't go too far away from what you typically would do. We just eliminate the data entry. So as you can see right away, the Capture product is a great tool that you can immediately take and get and use, and that eliminates the data entry of that particular product. Now, I will tell y'all, this will be available for you guys if y'all want to get a copy of this particular presentation. I'm recording it. So Allison is on the line. If we'll go ahead and get in touch with each one of you guys, and if you want a copy, we can send this to you. The next step is our receiver vouchering. The receiver vouchering, and I apologize for the videos, but I'm trying to get through some of this. We have a lot of ground to cover, so I'm trying to get through it as quick as possible. On the receiver vouchering, what we've done is we've introduced a concept for three-way match, where basically if you create the purchase order in Core Cloud Systems, if you receive the purchase order in Core Cloud Systems, then basically whenever the invoice comes in the door, if you were to use Capture to catch the header of the information, then what you're going to see here on this particular video, and I got to do a little cleanup here, what you're going to see here on this particular video is where when you get down into your AP entry, you're going to go through the steps and you're going to match up the purchase order and any change orders along with the receiving transactions. And if you captured the header information of the invoice on the top, then basically what it's going to do is it's going to automatically come in here and do the data entry for the distribution based on that purchase order receiving. So you can appreciate it kind of works the same way. All we're doing is if you utilize the commitment module, what we're doing is we're just eliminating the data entry not only for the header information on Capture, but also on the detail lines. In just a second, you'll see how this plays out. And it does it. It does a check. It says, hey, I don't have a receiver with this. But once you package it up the way you need it to be, and you select the correct documents, and then you hit attach, that's when the magic kind of happens. I apologize for the smallness of these videos. I was trying to get them bigger before I did this, but you'll see it takes it a second. This one has about 50 entries, and so what you're fixing to see is that it's processing those transactions and putting all of them together. And if you've ever reconciled a commitment PO and you have a lot of lines, you know how that works now. Well, in this case, it's just going through there and it's going to pull all those lines in. And then when it's done, it's going to drop them in right here on the bottom. And you'll see that. See? So it pulled out 50 lines and it just dropped them in here on the bottom, so that basically it eliminated the data entry and the reconciliation of that particular commitment based on the receiver transaction. Now, one of the cool pieces of that particular aspect is we have workflow, automated electronic processes in front of those transactions, so you can scrub those documents and make sure they're accurate before they get to this point. And that's one of the cool parts of that. We've actually also introduced this new Commander product. It's been out for a while, and we just haven't really got the traction that we needed on getting it out there. This year, we're focusing on it. It's a print capture functionality that can take a document that comes off of just about any printing functionality and distribute it, either through email or text in an encrypted environment. So, for instance, you might want to pass out your payroll check stubs for direct deposit, or you may want to push your subcontracts that you have in PM or Procore and have those automatically come in and get workflowed inside of AIM. Owner contracts are the same thing, or lien waivers. When it produces the AP invoice and it processes a lien waiver, I can capture those with Commander and automatically send them out to the vendors for signature and approval. So Commander opens up some opportunities here that eliminates steps and eliminates data entry, because we can take from a single process and distribute based on the print functionality. And you can design and build query style commands so that it knows who to send it to, it knows what data tables to look at, so that whenever it does the distribution, there's no attendant. So this can be done unattended. It can even be done automatically. So Commander is a real powerful tool that you're going to see and hear a lot more about in the months and weeks and months to come. Let me stop right there. Is there any questions on or anything that you guys might have so far? All right, good. Let me keep on going. The next step of the presentation is our acquire automation functions. I'm not going to show you a lot about this outside the fact that it can automatically capture emails and bring them to invoice entry. If you utilize the capture process, then it'll automatically process the invoices with capture and drop them into entry. So everything that I showed you up front, if you can appreciate the manual transaction that you would be doing to get those information, to get those invoices in, we now have a little agent that sits out there and looks at your email box, and it takes the invoice attachments and then drops it down onto a folder. So that whole exercise that you do to get those emails in goes away. And then we're building on top of that to basically move those automatically into AP entry. And if you so choose, if you want to capture, we can actually eliminate some of the data entry of those invoices. So you can see right away the automation or the acquire automation functionality is going to be a real popular product that we see for this next year. And we've actually already sold a lot. And I do the TimberScan tune-ups, and the email acquisition product is free. So, I just get yourself an upgrade or call support, and they'll get you hooked up for that. Core Cloud, of course, I'm going to show you back to this slide, is all about forms. When you go in and you set up the Core Cloud system, you can build your own forms. And we use the word form very, very liberally, I guess you might say. They're really apps. Every form is an app, and we give the users the ability to create their own apps and build their own workflow, build their own integrations, so that virtually all your expense on setting this up can be done in-house. So the cost of ownership of Core Cloud System, if you have somebody who's capable of, understanding a little bit about Timber's Sage and TimberScan, you can build your own form apps. So if you wanted to do anything in HR, think of the forms there. If you want to do anything with safety or quality control, we've got forms for all sorts of like change orders, all those forms that you have, credit card receipts, purchase orders, receiving tickets. all of the paperwork that basically you deal with on a day-to-day basis, you now can build a form app and create that form app and have it set up to where you can put this on somebody's mobile phone and they can functionally launch that app, have the integration, and then workflow that so that when it gets to you in the back end, it's already been scrubbed up so you can do stuff with that information and that data. And that's the idea behind what we've created with accounts payable. It's the same concept now that we can now mobilize that transaction, put it out into the field, and disperse the data entry such that when it gets into the office, it was only touched once. A great example of that is in our credit card process, and you'll see that in just a minute. But just if you can appreciate, this is a real tool, because what ends up happening also is that since we do send it into Sage and paperclip it to send it into TimberScan and paperclip it to Sage 300, all your filing and all the things that you do to touch that paper to get it organized goes away. It's all electronic and it's all basically easy to deal with. This is our credit card solution. We've been able to basically eliminate about 80% of the work with credit cards. It starts out with a form where the users capture their receipts. These particular forms can be coded on site or whenever the person charges his card, or it can be routed to somebody for coding, maybe a project manager or somebody else who knows more about codes. But it starts out here and you collect the receipt with it. And then from there, what happens is it goes into our reconciliation program. Our reconciliation program downloads the application, downloads the transactions from your credit card company, matches them with the receipts. We have a whole routine of how you can go in and reconcile and edit and change at this point. And then from here, basically, if you needed to go back and ding the cardholder because he doesn't have a receipt for a transaction, you can do that from here. But once you've got all your transactions reconciled, it automatically then sends those into TimberScan in 3 or 4 different formats. Detail, summary, we can do it by individual receipt. So it gives us a lot of functionality. But if you can appreciate this process, and if you've done credit cards, you recognize there's no more spreadsheets, there's no more touching of the information. It's done one time. Everything else is electronic. And all of the transaction and all the supporting transactions, once it gets to this point, are packaged up and sent into Sage or TimberScan so that they can be sent into Sage to pay the bill. This is a culmination of what we feel like is one of the best processes where you can see how the AP process influenced it, because it's that single touch, single entry functionality. We just incorporated the ability to do the reconciliation in one of our solutions that I showed you a little bit earlier. Moving along, we did the same thing with payroll. In payroll, we basically have these design grids where you can take these grids and either put them at a supervisor level, they can be in the payroll department, you can put these in their approval levels, where basically then in our solution, you can create any kind of form. So if you have your support staff doing clock in, clock out versus your field could be doing crew-based time, or they may have a maintenance guy that does time by job and it's an individual time. You can create the different applications down here for collecting time, but they all feed the grid. So that basically what ends up happening is that once they get approved in the grid, you touch a button and it automatically sends those transactions into Sage Payroll. So if you can appreciate what's going on here, we can also collect equipment information. So we can push equipment revenue into the equipment module. We can push per diem to AP if we need to. So it allows us here to be able to create forms and applications for time collecting that we give out to our users and our employees. And then that information comes into a standard grid. So, and these grids can be distributed for approval purposes and drill down back to the original form. So if you can appreciate here, again, here's Core Cloud Systems in our payroll solution, where you can now eliminate the double entry and triple entry of time. You can take it straight from the field into the system. And then, of course, the timesheet itself gets automatically filed and indexed into AIM. So we take the whole process, just like we did with accounts payable, and we now have introduced that to the payroll process. Another process that we have is on our purchase orders. Now, we have various ways of doing this, but this is a pretty straightforward system where you can now go into the field and generate a PO or a change order, or maybe the PO request and the change order request. It has entry point validation, so the guys can, they know what they're hitting. And then from that PO, its integration can be either with any of our other applications, Sage PO, Material Management, Sage Commitments, or TimberScan. So by virtue of putting that particular option out into the field, the guys can, fill out their purchase order. It runs it into a grid for approval, and then from there we can post it, and it goes in automatically as a commitment. So there's no double entry there, and that invoice, that purchase order image drops over here to TimberScan, so that it starts that three-way match that we have with the purchase orders and the invoices. And then the same thing applies to a delivery ticket. You can create a form for the delivery ticket where basically they fill out the information, take a picture of the form, and it sends itself into TimberScan. So the two POs and the delivery tickets are sitting there waiting to be matched up. Now, what's unique about this particular system is that if you utilize our invoice vouchering, then you would receive the PO instead of doing just a free form receiving ticket. You would literally receive the items on the PO. It creates a file here so that when you double up and you match up the PO and the receiver here, it automatically does the data entry for you on the distribution lines. So you can appreciate right away the purchase order function has some very minimal things you can do with it. Some folks just want to do field POs and send them straight into TimberScan. They don't use commitments. No problem. That's actually an out-of-the-box feature. You don't even have to buy PO. The PO module is there for you to do the integration and to have what we call receiver vouchering. So, but you can see right away, you can start out small and grow the solution, or you can, you can just basically use it in its full form and really eliminate a lot of data entry on this particular system. So I hope what you're seeing is that basically we have a real breadth of opportunities that we have, that are inside of the core cloud system and inside what we call our enterprise suite. Now, I'm going to show you the work order system, but I'm going to bump out of here for just a second, and I'm going to drop in and go into my system so that you can see that particular system. Let me get here. I've lost my bill here. Let's see. So this is a new product that we've been incubating here for the last year, and it's really pretty slick. It's a service deal. We have a dispatch piece that's on the front end of this, but it's a work ticket system, and what it starts out with is it's fully configurable, which means that you can build your workflow. In this example, the work ticket is created in the field, or it's created in the office and sent to the field, and then it's submitted, and then there's a point of submission here, and there's grids for that, and then it's reviewed, and then it's approved, and then it's billed. And we have the full functionality of building the billing transaction so that it can read a data table and apply billing rates to different aspects of the system based on, your customer. But at the end of the day, this is the work ticket functionality across the top here. Now, what you're going to see here is as I come through, let me get down here and pull one up that I can use. So this is one here, just so you can see all of these questions and all of these things that you're seeing right now are user configurable. So when you come in, for instance, in this example, you could have a various types of work orders. Those work orders are going to dictate what you see on the screen and what tabs are associated with it. In this example right here, you can see that I have labor, which is integrated with payroll. You can see that I have tools or trucks that's integrated with equipment and tools. So as the work order progresses, all of this information can be put onto that work ticket, and it's all integrated so the users can basically deal with the labor and equipment. When it gets to material, if you're using our material management system or inventory system, which they're one and the same, then you can actually go through here and either process a transaction to move that material to the job ticket, or you can actually request a purchase order. and this will automatically send a purchase request to the purchasing system, but it does never have to be double entered. It sends it to them as a purchase request. They select what vendor they're going to get it from, and boom, they hit a button and it prints the PO. It sends it to the vendor. It sends it into Sage and sends it into TimberScan. So just from this work order, we have all of this information that's integrated so that you can appreciate for materials and for other transactions, we can have this set up to where it does all of the integration. And again, these buttons are user configurable. Now, once it gets to the site approval, you may have a signature on there. And then, of course, on the billing side, whenever this particular work ticket gets over to billing, it applies the correct rates, and then it sends an invoice over to the vendor, and it sends an AR transaction into Sage and sends a copy of the bill into AIM, and it's indexed by that work ticket number, by that customer, and so on and so forth. So hopefully I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here, but what I wanted you to appreciate was, like, in this particular scenario, when I go into the payroll system, then it has all of the payroll functionality so that, let me get back here and just pick some dates, so that as I accrue time on that work ticket, it doesn't have to be double entered into the system. That time just basically accrues forward so that you can come in at the end of the week and marry it with the other time that is out there. So that as you sit down and you look at the time transactions, you can come in and look at the job, look at it by job. You can look at it by, reimbursements and things like that that would have come from the work tickets, or they would be combined with all the other time transactions that you have. Hopefully, what you're seeing here is the ability in our solutions and our enterprise solutions is we're trying to have cross-transaction platforms so that you enter at one time, and from that point forward, there's no double entry all the way into Sage. Any questions on any of this? No? All right. So let me go through. We're almost to the end of this here. I just wanted to kind of open up a few things that just, that was our work order function. Let me get back to here. So the next slide that we have, of course, this is kind of what it looks like at 5,000 feet, is that we're trying to put together a total information solution. From an enterprise content management, we want to be able to capture information through the portal processing. We want to be able to distribute it, and we want to be able to have it within our within the sphere of your Sage system. So that basically what happens here is that everything is single entry. We've been so successful with accounts payable that we know that this particular process will work very well in other forms, and it's actually proven itself out to be. As in anything, it's difficult sometimes to implement some of the things when we start including the field. So when we built Core Cloud and some of those products, we were very attentive to the type of person that we needed to be able to have and what the experience was going to be in the field. So what we're doing is you're going to see over the next couple of years introductions of things that are going to complement our strategy to eliminate data entry and to build a full feature application suite so that we can come through and be able to be the single vendor through your dealer for these particular products. I'd be amiss if I didn't tell you about our TimberScan mobile. This is the first step in our mobile entry. We have others that are going to be coming out this year. But basically right now we partnered with HH2 and they supply our mobile opportunity. So if you're looking for an opportunity to allow your guys to approve invoices offsite, if you're not using terminal services, the mobile solution is really good. And here again, there's no double entry. You do it in the mobile solution, you don't have to do it at the desktop. So these are some additional products that we have, and even though we partner with HH2, this is a very good product that allows you to now take your information and distribute it unconnected to the office. And that's something too that we're trying to move towards as well, is this whole aspect of application management and mobile functionality. So that kind of closes out my presentation here. Thank you very much.